became a fluffy dragon playing that game.
Yeah, last year we always thought it was there.
In any case, Spring Commander 2 was absolutely dreadful. So I've been all like, yeah, let's go for it. And I just bought it. I've been very...
At work I was really bored, and so...
You cleaned up NCS?
Yeah. So like the schedules, that table...
Oh, the giant table.
...is now in it's a no nav content. So it has like a notice bar up top where it will link you back to their homepage. So
Oh, you got rid of the nav
yeah.
on the side? Oh, well, I just squeezed it in so...
It fits way better.
It took my spot.
Yeah.
Do you want it?
No.
I don't know. I talked about it about that one, like, it was sticking out really like...
Yeah.
So she was like, oh yeah, just a giant table size, but yeah, that probably looks like a
Okay.
nav.
Navigation app, just put like a notice.
What else did you do?
Yeah,
I got everything. So it's like
Math is very powerful. It's easy to show styles to how oh, there's a shortcut. This one.
Mostly I uploaded everything, got all of the tables to look at, and then
I love it.
and then I finished this whole website.
Thank you for telling me.
Appreciate it. I was going to bring it, but I thought somebody else might for it.
There's still some things that probably have bashed in
security.
yeah. People were asking me questions. Just the way it is. Oh yeah, there you go.
It's rain off my head, so of course it doesn't rain all day.
It's going to be my new guinea pig for testing out the vulnerability scanner.
Oh, cool.
Thank you. Thanks to David.
You'll be recorded and you'll be on YouTube. Good.
Yes, I'll get you that.
Dr. Levine, the GE Finder people totally took their site down to make sure that we didn't try and SQL inject it.
Good. Were you planning to inject people?
No, I was not, but they were definitely fearful.
Okay.
That would be the security project? No. Christy has an egg peanut butter jelly sandwich.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Nina.
Oh, thank you.
Nina's actually here for closing.
Okay. Hopefully we get that started this time.
No. That's the next one. I'm really looking forward to it. One of the gal from work on the and then the two security cops at the
Systems.
Oh my gosh, next week. Right? So now we have to bring up the pub.
Oh, thanks. I'm wearing my first enabling.
Yeah, it works. It's just amazing.
You're more or less ready?
Yeah. Okay.
Just remember to slide it over and
Yeah, slide the.
whatever window you're displaying.
Yeah, because you're.
Oh.
Tim exposed that there were 370 project was vulnerable to SQL.
Okay. Listen up. Top of the morning, bottom of the afternoon to all of you. Next week we'll hear from Ellen Spertus. She's faculty, computer science faculty at Mills College. Today I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing you to Robert Bruce, who is a graduate of our computer science department and who was one of my best students. So let's welcome him.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you for coming out to my presentation. So I will make this all available for you. I'll leave my contact information up. So if anybody would like this whole presentation, I'm happy to send you everything because I don't have a lot of time to talk, and there's a lot of details here. So anyway, what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about how to write an Android app for smartphones. How many of you are experienced with that or have written an Android app before? Okay, good. There's somebody that's good. Another person? All right. Well, I'm formerly a faculty member at San Jose State University as a librarian. And I wrote an app for students. So this is a very familiar surrounding for me to see students again. This is great. So that they could contact me for reference-related work. And my app this is basically what my app looked like. I did a screenshot of this, and it's in the Android marketplace now. I kept it in there for demonstration purposes. I've had 40 downloads while I was at San Jose State. And basically all this does is it sends SMS text messages to my phone. So it worked really, really well. And what I was effectively doing then was branding myself as a research consultant. The first thing I want to note on this, however, is when you're developing an Android app, you've got to define the placement of, in this case, this is a static image that I'm displaying, okay? This is not a dynamic display that changes over time. An example of a dynamic display might be something like a compass. And as I move my smartphone around, the compass is changing in direction and showing me where true north is. So what I'm going to focus on today for simplicity is just static displays. And what I'm using for that, or what you would use in Android, is you define the layout with XML. Okay, extensible markup language. So the first component in mine is going to be, this is the title of the app, and that's something that Android is automatically going to display when you start up the application. The next section is, this is a graphic image that I used when I was at San Jose State. And again, typical image. I'm just showing you the components. I want you to think about the components and how they're built together. A picture of me, some text, a text box for entering information. This is important because this has got extra functionality, okay? And then a button. Now, if you've done any web design or web-related work, then a lot of this might be familiar. This would be like the ubiquitous form that you're developing. And what we need to do is we need to assign functionality to this. If you're new to, I don't know how many of you are computer science majors or how many of you have ever done event-driven programming. But basically, all of this functionality is event-driven. And what I mean by that is, when you type something in here, and then you hit that button, an action occurs. I guess a good analogy might be like a water cooler. You could think of that as an event. You go up to it, you press a button, water comes out of the water fountain. Okay? Or a sink. You've got hot and cold water, you turn them, they go on. So it's got functionality. Well, this is the same thing. We're assigning functionality to a graphical user interface that's touch-sensitive screen. So what's going to happen is you could type your messages in here, and it's limited to 160 characters, and then you hit that button, and then that's when everything happens. How do you get that to work? That's what I'm going to go over today. I'm going to show you the actual Java code that works hand in hand with this. There are 3 core sections. Actually, there's more than that, but the core of it is we need to go through and we need to define the placement of all of those different sections in this on our screen. That's one thing we need to do. Another thing we need to do is when the user types in something and hits the send button, we need to act on that data. Because what's going to happen is all of this data, whatever they type in here, hi Rob, I need some help with my computer science, whatever, is going to go to the program. The program needs to receive that data, process it, do something with it. In this case, what it needs to do is take that message and send it to my cell phone. Okay? So, with that in mind, now I'm going to go through and transition because the presentation can't hold code very well. I'm just going to load up a text editor and show you the actual code. So, do you have any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand at any time. Do you have any questions at all? Yeah.
Does it use their number when you receive it? Do you see their number, or is it?
Yes, I do. I do receive their number as well. So, what I have hard coded in my program is my cell phone number, and what it's doing is once I've received this data through this form, it just basically dials my number and sends it out to me. So the 3 things that I want to go over today is I want to show you the XML for the layout of the graphics, the layout of our screen, which is a static display. 2, I want to show you the XML file that you set up that defines your Android app and your version and all of that good stuff. Android apps are actually kind of a conglomerate of multiple files, okay, that all get put together into one big file. And then last but not least is the actual functionality that makes this happen, okay? The real guts level program that works. All right. So the first one, let me drag this over, I hope this works. So we get, oh good, we got it. I hope you can all see that now. Try to. Okay, so basically what we've got here is this is one of the XML files that you need to define. And what this does is this gives versioning information for my app. Think about your end users. Your end users are downloading your application, and they want to know what version is this that I'm downloading, version 1, version 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It keeps track of all that stuff. You define that all up here. The other thing that you're defining in here is you're defining the name of your app. You're defining the version of the Android phone. Remember that in an open system like this, we're not, as opposed to Apple, well, Apple's going to have its problems too, or its issues, are that we've got different phones out there that run the Android market. And what version of your app is this compatible with? You need to define that. Because when people go to the Android marketplace and they're looking for apps, they might say something like, they might just use their phone and not think about it, but their phone is saying, I'm using ice cream sandwich or whatever version of the Android system, and so only show me apps that are compatible with that operating system version. So I define that my code is compatible with a relatively old version of the Android the Android system. And that makes me have maximum compatibility. Okay? So that's what's going on up here. Again, this is not a rocket science program. This is actually a real simple program. And it doesn't need to have the very latest and greatest Android system. If you, however, are getting into graphics or games on Android devices, that gets very tricky. That gets difficult. Okay? As far as compatibility goes, as well as creating dynamic screens. The other thing that you need to do in this one is you need to specify if there's any kind of functionality that your program is doing that might cost the end user money. What does this program do? It sends text messages. And for some people, text messaging is not a free service. So I need to define in my program that it uses features which could cost the end user money. And that way, when it comes up in the Android marketplace and the user sees my program, it says, warning, this program does send text messages. It's like a disclosure agreement. So I'm just defining that out there and telling everybody. In my case, actually, it was uneventful and worked just fine. Everybody knew what it did. And so that's really all that's going on there. Any questions? Pretty straightforward, I hope. All right. Let me go through now and get you another program here. Now what I want to do is I want to show you the how we define the output from the XML. So how do we build that graphical display? Sorry. Okay, so the next step, and I'll try to squeeze all this on there. Now what we have to do is, I showed you that graphical display, and I purposely showed you the parts that made up that display. Now we need to think about how do we lay it out. And this is similar to when you're doing web design, in the sense that we're placing parts on our canvas, our screen. In this case, what I've got is you can start to see here, this is XML. And what I'm doing here is I'm defining, I've got the SJSU logo right there. And I'm basically giving it 4 pixel padding. This is not really exciting stuff, but I wanted to show you this nevertheless, because if you're building a screen and it's going to have any functionality whatsoever, you're going to have a file like this. And you're probably going to have pictures or text. So the first thing is I have that SJSU logo going across the top. And then I've got a little picture of me. And then next to that is I've got some text. And you notice how this is very modular, the way this works. I make reference to a lot of identifiers. This is just the way that, this is just looking through examples in books. And I'm going to give you a bibliography at the end so you can go through and some books if you want to do Android programming. The best thing I can recommend if you want to get involved in this is look at examples. It will make it so much easier. Look at examples of real-world code, just like I've got up here. So basically, I define that I want to have some text, and I tell it what the text is and where I want to place it. The next step that I want to have is I want to define a text box, and that text box is going to allow them to type some stuff in, and I want to put that text into a variable, and I want it to send that to me, okay? So what's happening is we've got a graphical interface, and it needs to handshake with a Java program that's going to retrieve that data, process that data, and then subsequently send that message to me, okay? So it's like passing off a baton, so to speak, from the user interface to the program, and then the program dials up my cell phone number and sends me that text message to a function. Okay. The next thing we've got down here is we've got a oh, sorry, I guess it's way down. Maybe it will not. I hope it will display. Is we basically what we basically have at the bottom is a button, and we're defining. Let's see if I can get that down here. see if I can. Okay, that's basically the end of it. I wish I could squeeze this a little more, put this up a little more, but anyway, what I've got then is I've got a button down at the bottom, and it's just these are all just like, which I guess you call just functions. I'll just keep it at that. So you integrate all this stuff in. So this is just defining the placement of all of this content, the visual content I showed you before. This file just defines where it's placed on the screen. Is it placed to the top of the screen, and you're building from the top of the screen down, top and then left to right. Okay, so I'm slowly building things just like I presented to you. Okay, you do that, and then the next thing is you have your Java program, and that's where the real stuff happens. I'm sorry, this is kind of awkward. I don't have a mirror of my screen, so I'm dragging stuff over. Oh, hopefully I can. Okay, so now this is where everything is happening. We built a graphical interface, and now we need to go through and assign functionality to that graphical interface. We need to define the triggers that are going to happen. When somebody presses this button, that send button, what are we going to do? This is where that happens. When that button gets pressed, then this code gets executed, but only when that happens. So the first thing I need to do is I have to do a lot of imports, and a lot of this stuff is what I call real boilerplate, real turn the crank, standard. You just cut and paste this in. A lot of code is going to have a lot of importing a lot of libraries. You're going to see this over and over and over again. So the best thing I can recommend if you're a beginning Android programmer is just look at examples, and you'll see a lot of the repetitiveness you'll see a lot of the same things. So I defined, I basically go through here. I define a button. That's my send SMS button. The other thing is I have a variable I'm defining, and it's for my text box, because I want them to be able to enter a message and I want them to be able to send it. Now the issues that I have are, I've got to have a way that I can capture the value in that text message box. So I define in my user interface a text box. I give it a variable, so now I know what to reference. Which text box are we talking about here? Now in my case, yes, I only have one, but maybe you have 2, 3, or 4. How do you know which text box you're talking about? So you need to reference which one you're talking about. And it's called text, and so then I stuff that into a variable. And then I come on down, see if I can move my screen down. And the next thing we need to do, this is going through and building that layout. It's doing it on the fly in real time. And then I'm going through and defining a button, and I'm going through and defining my text message. And now, and this is, of course, object-oriented. Now, this button send SMS. This button, it has special functionality. And that functionality is buttons can be pressed, right? So when you press them, we want to say, when this button is pressed, I want you to do a certain action. Okay? And that certain action is we further get down deeper into this. See if I can, wish that it would show us more. I first need to extract that text message that's in that text box string, okay? Now I did some extra things here. That text box doesn't put any constraints on the number of characters you type. But how many characters can you type in SMS? Anybody know? Yeah. 160, okay. So I know that some cell phones are real flexible, and if you send more than 160 characters, what it'll do is it'll spill over and it'll send the remaining characters, characters number 161 plus, in a separate text message. Well, what I wanted to do was first I wanted to go through, retrieve that text message, check the length of the text message, and if it's over 160 characters, then I'm going to truncate it to 160 characters, and then just send the 160 characters, and that's it. That's just a constraint of SMS, short message service. I don't have any control over that. So I go through and I test the length. What I'm doing is I create a variable text message. This here is referencing that form, that text message, for lack of a better word. I'm getting the text and I'm converting it to a string. And then what I do is I go through and I see, is it greater than 0? Because if you're running your app and you just have an app with no text message and they hit the send button, then I'm going to get a blank message from somebody. And that's annoying. Maybe you accidentally press the button. So if you just press the button and there's no message, it's not going to do anything. It's just going to throw it out. It's just junk. But if there's at least one character in there, then the next question that you want to ask, or I want to ask, was, okay, there's more than one character, but is there more than 160 characters? And if that's the case, then I need to truncate the message to I need to take a substring, or I need to truncate my string variable to the first 160 characters, and then we get down to the real, we get down to the real thing here. Greater than 0, greater than 160. If it is, truncate it, and then send, and there's my cell phone number. Copy down now if you like. I don't care. You can. By the way, I'll leave my contact information up for you as well. But this is the real heart of it right there. It dials my number and sends the truncated message. If the message is less than 160 characters, great. Send the whole message. And in that case, you just send the whole message instead of a truncated version of the message. And that's really it. So there's a lot of overhead that I had to set up to get to this point. But if you could see, there's a lot of handshaking that's going on between the form and the functionality of the form. When you press this button, what do you want it to do? Do you want it to have a pop-up screen? Do you want it to what? When you think about, if you think about appliances like a microwave oven, they've got the same thing. They've got a form. They've got little buttons. You can type in the minutes that you want to cook your meal. For example, I'm just giving you an example, but in this case, it's a virtual. It's a screen. It's a touch screen, but it's all kind of just a flat panel. So you need to define the functionality for it, and the widgets. I guess that's a term that you could use, which would be like a class of interactive type of things like buttons, sliders, text boxes, and whatnot. So you need to define those. Once you define those, then you need to define containers in which to pass the data that's coming in from that screen into your program. And then in your program, like any good computer program, you want to go through and check. You want to do a little bit of checking, integrity checking here. So, in cases like zero message length, well, you don't want to send a zero text message. That would be really annoying. And that's really it. So, is there any questions? Yeah.
What does yours do after you push the button? Does it clear the text, or can a little confirmation something or anything?
That's that. It doesn't do anything beyond that. It leaves the message in there. So if I wanted to, that would be the next step.
All right.
Is that it goes through and I do another function call. Yeah.
You're about to get all the text messages then.
Oh no! It actually worked out real well. I've been using this in the fall of 2011, and it worked fantastically well.
Well, I just downloaded the app and tried it, and I just kept hitting the button because it didn't look like anything was changing.
Right. Okay.
So you might.
Yeah, I thought about that. And at the time that I wrote this, I wanted my main concern was I just wanted to get something up and running as quickly as possible. So from not knowing Java at all, everybody learns Java these days, don't they?
Not here.
No? I thought that was, I forget. You know, languages change a lot over time, and I graduated in 94. So I didn't learn Java at the time. So I just picked up some books and started reading and learning how to do this stuff, and I wrote my first app in 2 days, which I think is pretty good considering I've never done this before in my life. But I thought about for my next revision what I would do with this would be, yes, it would be really good to have a confirmation that says your message was sent. And there's a function call that you can do that will confirm that message, that you can get a status on an send SMS that will send you back a confirmation that, yes, it did make it through the network and successfully sent. And then they would get a confirmation, you're right, that would be a really good thing to do. And at the time, I just said, oh, God, okay, how do I do that? How do I do that? I don't want to deal with that right now. I'm just going to get this thing out. I just want to get it out. It worked really well for my purposes. It worked fantastically well. And it was a great way to communicate with students. They really liked it. They liked the app thing. So I had a lot of fun with it. And for me, it was creating something and trying to communicate more with students and brand myself. So I think that librarians may want to think about something like this, defining their own app and having their own page. Because I find that a lot of students like to do SMS text messaging, hence the reason I got into it. And I also wanted to learn a little bit about about app programming. So these are good points. And there's always revisions and new things to add, of course. So again, I'm just learning this stuff as I go. I actually have done other programs beyond this. I started getting into dynamically generated programs and programs that use the compass and access the GPS system. So I've been experimenting with the GPS services because I wanted to write an app that would let me navigate within a building. And I wanted to be able to locate myself within the building. So I wanted to find out, A, how accurate could I get this thing to work? And as it turns out, not surprising, it didn't work out terribly well using the GPS. And I found, too, that my signal strength was really low inside of the building, the Dr. Martin Luther King Library at San Jose State University. We've got 8 floors, and there's a lot of concrete in there. And my satellite, I was not always getting satellite signal. So then I was thinking about alternatives like setting up a wireless Bluetooth network grid with points at certain well-known locations, because those would be, I'd know those latitude, longitude at those locations, and I could broadcast those to my phone. And then somebody that's going through the library, they could say, see, my ultimate goal, I wanted people to be able to find books on the shelf. I wanted them to be able to type in the book and use their little phone, and it would show them, this is the way you walk through the library. You're getting closer, your book is right here. That's ultimately what I wanted to get to. I wanted to try to do a system like that. That's complicated to do. Yeah?
Just so you know, Google has now an API for...
I know.
Okay.
I actually saw that when that was debuted a couple years ago at Google I/O. I saw it. I thought that was very cool. I was expanding. I wanted to expand on that. And yeah, building on the internal, kind of a street view for inside buildings. But I ran into some physical problems, which was just the GPS wasn't accurate enough. So then I thought about my own navigation system and how could I do it. And the only other way I could think of doing it would be through Bluetooth. But then the person would have to have Bluetooth enabled. So the apps, however, there's a lot of functionality and a lot of unique things that you can do with them. And I see a lot of good applications, like in music, in producing music, something else that I do, developing virtual mixers, which have a lot of sliders and buttons and knobs on them. And using, I have a big display here actually. Looks just like an iPad, but using that as using something like this for my functionality. So, again, developing a graphical interface with sliders on it to do whatever kind of thing I want to do. But really, I see now as a trend, and I was going to recommend it before coming in here, but then I started seeing that they're already on the market. I said, somebody's already thought of it. But you've got touch-sensitive screens, and think about how can you use this touch-sensitive screen for some new device or interface you want to interact with. And that's a real powerful thing that I find with these. It's event-driven programming, if you're familiar with that or have heard that term before. I don't know if that's a term that's... event-driven programming means that your program is not running linearly through start, stop, done, but rather it's sitting here waiting in a loop, waiting for something to happen. And what do you think that happening is? It's waiting for you to press a button, turn a slider, move something, and then it interacts. When you turn that button, what does your program do? That's functionality you need to define. So that's really the next step that I see, is thinking about some creative ways that you can use touch screens for your, well, for whatever functionality. But I would love to see smartphones. I think of smartphones as kind of like black boxes with functionality, okay? And I think that they could even add some more functionality to these things to increase it a lot. And that functionality then is, we provide you with a box. This box has all these functions. You call them through a Java API, Application Programmer Interface. And then from there, you can do any of these kinds of things. Location-based services, or communication, text messaging, or voice, or whatever. So really, it's just up to your creativity then to find some creative new way to do things. I would say that the GPS is okay, not that accurate. I'm not surprised. I knew that going in, but I wanted to see anyway. And GPS can be really flaky when you're inside buildings because, again, it's accessing the satellite. So here's a challenge then, is to come up with other ways that you can get more accurate location-based services. If we could do that, that would be awesome. Because I could think like my library example, which is relatively harmless, of ways of finding stuff within a library using mobile devices, I think would be fantastic.
Well, like built into these, they also have access to look at Wi-Fi data and cell tower triangulation. So, like, I don't have a cell or a GPS lock in this room, but it knows that I'm in this corner of this building right now. So I would think, like, in the library at San Jose State, that you would have a bunch of repeaters set up, and it would be able to pretty well figure out where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's definitely worth investigating. I've been playing with the Wi-Fi for years at that university, and getting, because we have a lot of dead spots. I've annotated those on maps. Definitely. And I think that's the other thing that's another part that I was thinking of, is how can I harness all of the well-known locations of everything, anything and everything I have access to. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the reasons I got this, is because I built a compass and I started going through and experimenting. So I'd walk around the library like this, and I was looking at latitude, longitude, and I was having coordinates spit out at me all the time. Mm-hmm. Kind of loony stuff I'm doing. Yes?
I don't know how good the accelerometers are in these phones, but I've heard they're pretty good. So I guess it might be possible to bring your phone to a central location and use the action to a known location, like the center of the library, and then use the accelerometer to tell where it's moved from that central location.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking something like that. I was even, interestingly enough, somebody at the library had a very old, for lack of a better word, analog way of doing stuff, which was they were using QR codes and putting QR codes printed on paper throughout the library, which to me is a very analog grid. And then you go up with your phone and you take a picture of it, and it tells you exactly where you are. And I thought, well, that does work. And I guess the digital analogy I could think of would be placing a digital grid in the library. In other words, it's all wireless, and we don't have to use analog and then OCR recognition to recognize that, to see that well-known location, but I can broadcast. And see, what I would do is I'd broadcast latitude, longitude, I'd broadcast numbers from certain places, and then I would have a grid. But anyway, yeah. Again, these were all experiments that I had been doing, trying to get this to work. The hardest thing for me was being in stacks. It was blocking. I was getting a lot of low signal strength. Yeah.
Do these phones have RFID functionality?
No, but I really, really wanted that. I really wanted RFID. I think RFID would be, that's something that that Google They might come out with it might be that Google has it out now, because Google Wallet's supposed to use that. And what you're going to probably see in the future,
As I drop it, this is a Galaxy Nexus. They don't use RFID for Google Wallet.
They use near-field
communication.
NFC, near-field communication.
And that was really big at I/O last year.
Yeah.
I mean, huge
NFC.
sessions about
Yep.
it. And it works well.
Yep.
I went to 7-Eleven and walked up and paid for a drink that Google paid for because they gave me $10 for trying it out.
Yeah, that's cool. NFC is another wireless communication, and that would be another way to take advantage of it, just like the RFID. I wish the prices on these, say, RFID tags would go down more, because I would like to RFID all of our books so that when it's misshelved, I could find it exactly if it's in the library. And then if we had the readers in our phones, then you could. I really would love that functionality. I just think that would be fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking that before it was brought up that RFID would be great if it was on the phone. And it would, I think, work better than the near field, because I don't believe near field works like RFID in the sense that the RFID receiver it actually sends the radio signal out that energizes the RFID tag, which then transmits the data back. So
right.
It's a passive device, and I don't know that the near field
NFC is passive as well.
It's passive.
So the receiver is a passive device?
Yes. You walk up to your phone, right? You can have a sticker like he's talking about, like an RFID tag. You can literally walk up and touch the sticker with your phone. It energizes it and sends you I think they only hold 16K or 64K data or something like that.
Yes.
It's really small, but it's enough for enough data.
Let me get my other screen up. I realize that. So really, so you've seen now the guts of the code and the functionality, and you see how I'm intercepting messages, retrieving them, and then processing them in my program. So really now, just depends on what functionality you want, and of course what these phones will offer. I would love to see them, again, having more functionality, especially in terms of location. And the RFID is just amazing, and NFC is another great technology. And I can see some really practical applications in academic environments with that, especially when you've got collections of things and being able to locate that collection. I'm sure that there's some nefarious, evil ways that we could use this stuff too. I haven't thought of those. Well, I do think of those, but that's not my goal. My goal is really to be able to find stuff, find information. And we're in a transitional period in terms of digital technology. We don't have all e-books yet and everything online. We still have this old print collection. So it's trying to make that migration for new generations of people and finding that information. So that was really my big goal, grand scheme of things. Yeah?
Could you say something about your development environment?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Thank you. I just installed a new SUSE 12.1, so I hadn't installed the new environment. But I was using, previous to this, I used SUSE 11, and I had, now you've got to make me think here. There's two packages you have to download. One of them is the integrated development environment. God, I'm trying to think of the name of that thing now. Eclipse. Eclipse is a lot of. I got along fine with Eclipse. I downloaded it. It is freely available. There's only two that I know of. I would recommend you use Eclipse. Thank you. It's been a while since I've done phone development. It's freely available. You need to download that. I think you also need to download the developer kit for Google. And again, once you download these and install these things, Eclipse makes it very easy for you to publish your app. There's a lot of steps involved in this whole thing. When you go through and you make your Java application, you have to compile it, and the compilation is actually a kind of a conglomeration of maybe about 9 files or so. And these are all zipped together. It's all into what is called an APK file. No big deal. It's just a big file, okay? And think of it as a resource file. It's going to contain your icons. Remember, apps have icons, right? And these icons, there's different size icons depending on if you've got a tablet, which has a higher density screen, or a smartphone, smaller screen. So you need to think about the different ways that your application is going to be used and different devices. Again, Eclipse, when you go through and build your project, it puts all this stuff together for you. It is wonderful. And then you have to create a digital signature and sign your application as the authentic developer. Congratulations, you're a software company. And sign it, and then you create a Google account. I think that when I did it, it was $25. It probably still is. And then you're a developer, and then you can upload your app, and that's it. It's really cool. You don't have to have a Google developer account. You can take your apps and publish them on your own website if you like. But I wanted to have it in the marketplace because I wanted to make it easy for people to install, and I just wanted people to use it, and it was not a big deal, you know. So, but I like the freedom of the open source. Anyway, I hope that I somewhat addressed some of the things in the Eclipse. I didn't want to go heavily into Eclipse and all this because there really is a lot to learn when you're doing this app development. It's not. I want to show you the real crux of it, of what's going on. But although it took me 2 days, that was 2 days of reading lots and lots of books. I have about 14 books on the topic. And the best thing I can recommend is get some cookbooks. I don't, programmer cookbooks, because they give code examples in them. It really helps a lot. I think that the hardest thing is figuring out what functionality is out there that I need. I want to do SMS. So I bet there's a function in Java that does that. So then you go and find that. Okay, how do I call it? What is it expecting? Okay, well, it's expecting the message you want to send, the cell phone number you want to contact. So it's a function. And it's just learning what that is. So when you have these cookbook examples, it gives you context. And so that's what I'm really trying to show you, is just the context. And then, again, with apps, you're entering a model, a programming model that's event-driven. And you're using a touch screen as your user interface. So this is going one step beyond. I look at it as similar to doing web development. The back-end document markup language is a little different. Yeah, we're using XHTML versus XML, but big deal. It's still a markup language. You're still placing things around on a screen. You're still creating a user interface. Or maybe you do MFC, Microsoft Foundation Class development, or Mac development, and Cocoa programming, and you're developing graphical interfaces that way. You're going to see some similarities in all of these things in the sense that you're creating events, you're defining how those events work. When you press a button, it does X, whatever that is. It's good stuff to learn. And I think that these screens are really a lot of fun. I just wish that there were some more functionality. I really would love the NFC, and I knew that was coming out, but it was, I couldn't wait at the time. So, are there any other questions? Yeah.
I have a question.
What library does the button and edit text? What library does it come from? What API are you using?
Oh, it's just button. I think it's just called, it's just, I'm literally just using a class called button in Android. It's really generic.
I think the library is like android.widget.button or something like that. Yeah. Eclipse will automatic, like if you say you want to do a button, it'll put the little yellow squiggly under it, and you just highlight over it and say, import the library, and it'll do it for you.
Right. It will build, you can have it go through and start to build kind of like a graphical building of your functionality, like I want to place this button here, and then I want to assign functionality to it, and it will pull in the stub code that you need to do that. I did it actually from the hard way. I just did it from scratch.
Can you slide that up so that I can see them?
Sure. Again, all of these things, yeah. Oh, sorry, I'm slightly off screen here. Come on, where is my mouse? Okay, now I see my mouse. Okay, there you go. Sorry. So you see a lot of the packages that I'm importing. Yeah, it's Android widget button is what I'm importing. Sorry, you had a question?
Yeah, actually, it's for Professor Levine. I think there was a Sonoma State app being created by one of your students a couple of years ago or a year ago. Is that out on the market at all?
For iPhone.
For iPhone?
I think so, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is an iPhone app that says you can look for it, search for it, Sonoma State.
So it's published on
Mobile. It is published.
Oh, cool.
It's
published
published
by
people want to know.
probably 1,500 downloads.
Oh, that's great.
How to get places.
It's a lot of fun. Is there any other questions?
I have a question about Google. They don't check your code like Apple.
No, they don't. There was no check. It published immediately. So, yeah, there's differences between that and Apple. I chose to go this route because when I did my development, the thing that I liked about the Android developer kit is that it runs on Eclipse specifically, runs on Apple, it runs on Windows, and it runs on Linux. And so I did all my development on Linux. So I like that whole functionality, whereas the Apple, I think, only runs on the OS X. And that was a real limitation to me because I didn't want to invest in a whole computer. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. This is just a work in progress.
Well, thank you very much.
And thank you. And I'll leave I didn't. So if anybody wants my contact information, feel free to come up and I'll...
That's what makes it more secure.
That's what makes it
If you have trouble managing your text windows, Notepad++ is really great, a new program, and it's got tabbed. It's just a text editor, so it's got tabs.
That's great.
Did you say you had a card? Or?
I'm sorry, I don't have a card.
I just had some questions about some
It would be better in case of
Yeah. Oh, what audio? Yeah, as a musician. I'm using
See that, like as you, all right, see you later.
It can like say you're like walking around and it's picking up tags or like, triangulating. Yeah. It gets you within, that would be really cool.
Think about the sheer number of tags that would be in like a shelf of a book.
It would be like the same thing.
And so that's how I'm doing my recording and everything.
Okay, but everything else is kind of... I really don't understand. I've just been trying to play around with actually switching up the size of the audio files. It's hard. It's just hard to just jump right into. Yeah.
We need to wrap up.
Oh, sure.
The end of each stack.
It's a real headache. I can tell you that the technology is not always great because drivers.
Yeah, like
Thank you. Yeah,
but like for doing but one of the reasons why, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they're improved, right? So like you have a sign that they want you to go up to the sign and touch your phone to it or whatever, and that's why they went with NFC.
At the end of like
security too, like you really have to get like this
few
far away.
Right. Sorry.
Theoretically. Yeah.
Huh?
Theoretically. And high power. Here is. I didn't.
Yeah, that was.
Because I've heard of people picking up the new charge cards.
There's only 5. For some reason.
Walking along scanning people.
Oh yeah, because those are not. I don't think those are using NFC.
So I don't know what happened.
No, they're using RFID.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Because when I went a couple, like last week, there was 4 or 5.
NFC is near field,
and I went to look again,
you
and
have
then
to be like
says there's 9.
this far away.
I'm
And
in
the last
Seattle.
several were actually FTP, and it shows like
That's
the
also
offset.
where it's from.
It shows and here's a third one.
Although I don't want my Google Wallet to
They're all
pop open
all
and
the
all of a
same.
sudden people are taking
But,
money.
there's only 5, so I don't know why.
Although you have to type in your password and stuff.
Sorry, my
So you don't have any time right now?
Well,
the problem with
I was going to meet with some kids, but I don't know where they went.
oh, what is it? It's only 1.
Yeah. Because we can go over to my office and
Yeah, I
look
need
at
to,
it if you
have
want.
some food.
I do too, actually.
And then,
Let's
yeah,
go.
we can take a look. I guess I'm not really doing anything else until.
Because we're not really studying for our massive quiz today.
Oh, that's right.
He doesn't want us to.
Yeah, I've got nothing to say. I might read those, spend a little bit of time looking at those pages. But.
Good afternoon, everyone. As I look over the material, I think slight change to the syllabus. I do think it's probably wise before the midterm to cover Chapter 11.